Another conservative is confused as to what exactly fascism is. So let's watch this and come back and talk about it.
The left claims that conservatives are fascists and authoritarian, when it's actually the other way around. And you can look at how we deal with disagreement. Another example is a bunch of state governors are talking to Congress about California's Proposition 12, which basically says that any farm products, agricultural products, have to be from cage-free animals. So, for example, cage-free eggs. The problem is these other states don't have that law. California says that we can only buy cage-free eggs. The obvious solution is, since it's interstate commerce, the other states should still be able to sell their eggs in California, and people should be able to choose for themselves. You can even put it on your menu right next to each other. You can have a $7 omelet with eggs from another state, and you can have your $12 omelet with your cage-free eggs from California. And if that's a concern to you as the consumer, then you can choose the $12 omelet. That's not how the left wants to deal with the situation. They want to block any of these other states from selling eggs in California. That should tell you which side is for freedom. The left wants to be controlling, and they want it their way or the highway. The right says let the people decide. Let people decide for themselves which eggs they want. There should be no government involvement in this. Leave it to the people to decide. Conservatives are for freedom. The left is controlling.
So he says Republicans aren't fascists because they're for freedom. They're not for controlling people. And a prime example of this is a 2019 law from California that says that things like your eggs need to come from cage-free animals. And if you sell non-cage-free eggs or allow non-cage-free eggs in your state, that's fine. But you can't. We won't buy them here, and we won't allow you to sell them here in California. What about abortion? What about abortion? California, abortion is legal. Texas, abortion is illegal. Can women from Texas go to California to get an abortion without the Republicans trying to stop them, without the Republicans trying to control them? No, they can't. Republicans in Texas are trying to criminally prosecute women, or threatening to criminally prosecute women if they go out of state to get an abortion. The state of Ohio is trying to sue and criminally punish the abortion doctor in Indianapolis that performed the abortion on the, how old was she, 8-year-old rape victim from Ohio that had to cross state lines because Ohio had already passed their anti-abortion laws. So are you cool with that? Because that's fascism. That's control. That's Republicans saying, I don't want abortion in my state. But then that means that you can't go to another state and get an abortion. What about marijuana? Marijuana is legal here in Illinois. Can somebody in Illinois sell their products? Can a dispensary in Illinois go into Indiana and put up a stand with their products next to a liquor store and say, you could buy that alcohol or you could buy this weed? Of course not. Because Indiana controls their people and says, you can't consume that. You're not allowed to put that. You're allowed to go get all the alcohol you want and get fucking knocked down, falling down the stairs, blackout drunk if you want to, but you can't burn a joint. My friend, you don't know what fascism is, so let's take a look at the 14 defining characteristics of fascism as agreed on by the entire world and see how many of them align with Republicans versus Democrats. Right off the bat, we have powerful and continuing nationalism. You think that's a Democratic trait or do you think that's a Republican trait? Disdain for human rights. Most definitely a defining characteristic of MAGA. Identification of enemies as a unifying cause. See the press? They're the enemy of the people. They're the reason why X, Y, and Z happens. Supremacy of the military. Now, I'll give you this on both sides, right? Because both sides continue to spend more and more and more and more and more on our Defense Department. But only one of them wants military parades, wants it to be the most powerful military ever, wants to rebuild something that didn't need to be rebuilt, and that's MAGA. Rampant sexism. My guy, President grab him by the pussy, takes that hands down. Controlled mass media. Who's the party that wants to? Who's the party that has a president that wants to lock up reporters that write unflattering stories about him and pull the press passes and press credentials of news organizations that they don't like? MAGA. Obsession with national security. MAGA. Religion and government intertwined. That's been a Republican standard since the 80s. Corporate power protected. MAGA. Labor power suppressed. MAGA. Disdain for the intellectual and the arts. Who's the only president in the last 50 years to not even attend the Kennedy Center honors? Obsession with crime and punishment. We're the law and order party. Rampant cronyism and corruption. I mean, that's MAGA to a T. And fraudulent elections. Just find me the necessary votes to overturn this state. On top of the fact that a woman can't leave the state of Texas to go to another state to get a medical procedure that she wants, lest she fear being criminally prosecuted back in her home state. My guy, you got this completely backwards.